Okay, we'll
By
call,
the time I got mine, it was long after that.
I was 59 and 3/4 somewhere here. Well, you gotta wait till you're 3 months.
Yeah.
Then I got the Chino.
we'll call the Tuesday, October 26th Planning Commission meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Changes to the agenda.
No, Chairman.
Roll call, please.
Chairman Saylor,
Here.
Vice Chairman Jacobs,
Here.
Commissioner Helmar,
Here?
Commissioner Garza,
Here.
Commissioner Pruitt.
Here.
Public comments under Government Code 54954.3. Members of the audience may address the commission on any item of interest to the public or on any agenda item before or during the commission's consideration of the item. State law prohibits the planning commission from acting on non-agenda items. Did we get anything written in regards to anything? I guess not.
I did not receive
Okay.
any.
Okay. Information and consent calendar, there's one item, the approval of the minutes from the September 28th, 2021 meeting. There's no need for, if there's no need for comment, the chair will entertain a motion.
I motion to approve.
Commissioner Helmer made the motion to approve. Does the motion have a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Garza made the second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, voice vote 5-0. Public hearings, we have one item, conditional use permit application, CUP 21-09, single room occupancy facility, 270 North 7th Street. Sean.
Thank you, Commissioners. Chairman, tonight the staff is recommending approval of Resolution 021P-012, approving a conditional use permit application with conditions of an existing 11-room motel at 270 North 7th Street to a single-room occupancy facility. On September 8th, 2021, the Community Development Department received a conditional use permit application requesting the conversion and rehabilitation of the existing 11-room motel at 270 North 7th Street into 11 residential studio apartments or single-room occupancy facilities to accommodate Kalinga Regional Medical Center employees. In accordance with the land use table and the Plan and Zoning Code, single-room occupancy facilities require the issuance of a conditional use permit reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission. This use classification requires special consideration to ensure that it can be designed, located, and operated in a manner that will not interfere with the use and enjoyment of the surrounding properties. In terms of what the single room occupancy zoning classification is it's a facility defined as a residential facility with 6 or more guest rooms without kitchen facilities and individual rooms or kitchen facilities for the exclusive use of guests or renters, and which are also the primary residences of the guest or the renters. This use type is distinct from a hotel or motel, which is a commercial type use. In terms of the California Environmental Quality Act, this application constitutes a project in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, and staff has prepared an environmental analysis as part of the land use application. In terms of comments, once the application is deemed complete, staff requests comments from the necessary departments. So this proposal includes any feedback or comments back from the other city departments. So the structure is located at 270 North 7th Street. Were originally used as a motel, as motel units, formerly the Kruger Motel. These structures are recently purchased and now under new ownership, and the owners wish to rehabilitate the units to convert them to single-room occupancy residential units. These units, once converted and rehabilitated, will no longer be classified as hotel rooms and deemed single occupancy residential units. And we did talk about what the definition of those facilities are, and the owner will be rehabilitating the 11 units to accommodate those CRMC employees. And some of the proposed renovations include painting, flooring, restroom renovations, and residential building code compliance, such as smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors. These buildings in these units are really kind of geared to be converted to residential units according to the building official. Just requires certain types of adjustments. And then the amenities in the rooms will include mini fridge, microwave, and television. The property is served by 10 parking spaces with ample on-street parking available to accommodate the parking requirement, which is basically one per studio apartment. The proposed project was determined to be exempt from CEQA in accordance with 15303 301A for existing facilities. This project is a rehabilitation and conversion of 11 motel rooms to accommodate employees at the Columbia Regional Medical Center. And with basically the rehab activities ranging from painting, plumbing, and flooring visibly constitute any major change in the facilities. And the single room occupancy facilities are permitted uses in the general commercial zoning district, just subject to a conditional use permit. And so a notice of exemption will be filed with Fresno County Clerk's office once approval has been granted for the application. As usual with conditional use permits, we did do a public notification. So the public hearing notices were mailed out to all property owners within 300 feet of the site as required. So in terms of reasons for recommendation and the findings that are necessary for a conditional use permit, one is general plan consistency, and that approval of the proposed project will advance the goals and objectives of and is consistent with the policies of the general plan and other applicable plans the city has adopted. And I kind of identified a couple of general land use plan goals in terms of, providing creative, high quality choices in housing and densities in a variety of neighborhoods where residents can fulfill their varied individual housing needs and dreams of home ownership. And then also favorable consideration shall be given to developments which further the city of Palenga's goal of accommodating a broad range of housing types and densities in a variety of neighborhoods within the city. So there are several goals in addition to the general plan and the housing element that foster the idea of providing and preserving housing within the city, from facilitating and encouraging the provision of a range of housing types to meet the diverse needs of residents, encouraging and facilitating the development of affordable housing and preservation of housing within existing neighborhoods. And then the second finding is neighborhood compatibility, that the location, size, design, coverage, density, traffic generation, and operating characteristics of the proposed project are consistent with the purposes of the district where it's located and will not have an adverse effect on the neighborhood. The subject property is located in a residential neighborhood within a block from Elm Avenue. The conversion of these units from a commercial motel, hotel type classification to a single room occupancy facility will fit well within the existing neighborhood and is not expected to negatively impact the surrounding properties as it relates to traffic or density and noise. In terms of the last finding is the assets of the neighborhood, and the nature, use, and architectural design features of the proposed development make it attractive, functional, and convenient. The proposed development enhances the successful operation of the surrounding area and its basic community function, and it provides an essential service to the community as well. In addition, this provides an economic benefit to CRMC as a way to market the facilities, provide housing for its employees. So with that, Chairman, that's my report. I did include a copy of the resolution with conditions, a copy of the application, and there's some supplemental information that we requested from the applicant once the application was submitted, just to get some clarification on a few other items on site. So with that, there's a public hearing. So if you'd like to open the public hearing, and I'll entertain any questions if you have any.
As was stated, this is a public hearing, so the public hearing is now open. Commissioner Pruitt, do you have any questions?
If this property were to sell, would and this were to pass, would that single unit distinction sell with the property? Or if they wanted, the new owners wanted to use it in the same fashion, would they have to get another conditional use permit?
Typically, it would actually go with it runs with the land. Typically, conditional use permits run with the land. So if it does sell, the underlying approvals would stay. They just have to make sure they meet all the conditions and the requirements of that project.
That's my only question. Thank you.
Commissioner
You're
Garza?
Hey, are these motel, hotel have kitchens, or what are they trying to do? Remove them or take them out, or?
No, I don't think there's no kitchens. All
Okay.
we, based on what the applicant has identified to us, is that they're going to have like microwaves,
Refrigerator and a
TV.
Microwave.
Okay, I thought they might have had
Yeah.
kitchens in them at the one time or another, but they don't have
I think
that.
they may have, but according to John, they're not going to have. They may have like a hot plate in there, but I don't think they have anything like that's going to be a full blown kitchen in that facility.
That's what I needed to know. Thank you.
No problem.
Commissioner Helmer?
Yes, did you get any comments from any of the neighbors?
I did not receive any comments, no.
Okay, and who actually owns this now? The hospital?
It is owned, yes, I think if I look at the cover sheet, I think I identified who the owner was. It's under the ownership of it's Amardeep Barar, so I think it's actually owned by the individual that is running the CRMC. So I'm not sure how they created the ownership of the Kalinga Regional Medical Center, but it looks like from what I can see is that the owner is actually the individual that's basically running the CRMC facility.
Okay, and it will be strictly for CRMC employees?
That's what the applicant had advised. That was the purpose of their rehabilitation of this facility. And when they mentioned that, we discovered that's what they were looking to do. It did require a reclassification because it wasn't going to be constituting a hotel or motel, because they were not going to be paying guests in terms of transient type occupancy. It's going to be more of a longer term occupancy for those employees.
Okay, and maybe this is none of our business, but do we know how that's going to operate? I mean, is it going to be one person renting, one or two people renting that room, or are they going to be like for travel employees who may only work here a couple days a week and therefore they're going to be moving people in and out? And do we care if that's the model?
It wasn't based on the classification of what a single room occupancy is. I think it's going to be more geared towards. To answer your question quickly, is the fact that I do not know how long each stay will be. Our understanding is that it won't be for, it'll probably be for stints. I would imagine for some doctors, but with 11 units, I don't think they have that many traveling employees. There may be shorter term for a week, 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. But they're trying to use it where it's more for housing for these folks, is what they identified. And it should be for more long-term housing than just like for a weekend. But if it's identified as a residence for those folks, it's not, based on the land use classification, it looks like it should be more for longer term use.
Yeah, I'm used to like in corrections a lot of times where people will work far away from but they'll go home every weekend, but several people might rent an apartment, and based on their shift work, not that many people would live there if they were just all there at the same time, but they kind of rotate in and out, and I wondered if that was possibly what this model was going to be, and if it is, do we as the Planning Commission even care about that? I was just curious.
Yeah, I think that for single room occupancy facilities, it's, it does talk about where, it should look at being the primary residence of these folks. That question I do not have an answer to, whether or not they will be identified permanently, because it's kind of difficult to monitor that once actually they've moved in, whether or not to verify whether that's actually their primary residence. Yeah. Or whether it's just a room that's available when they come to work, whether it's a doctor or there may be for other employees to be able to stay there. Because I don't know if they have that many traveling employees, but I have a feeling that may be the case as well. Similar to like at the state hospital, where some employees come and stay. They have an apartment,
right?
And they'll be there for a week or a month at a time, and then they'll be back.
Okay, that was all the questions that I had.
Vice Chair Jacobs?
Most of them got answered by you. Thank you. So will they put a mailbox up for each one of these units, Sean, or will people be getting mail there, or is that?
There was no mention of adding mailboxes, which means they may have to obtain PO boxes for these units. If they do decide to individually address these, we can address that in the inspections, and John, the building official, would be able to identify numbers similar to like an apartment complex. Where each one would have its own mailbox, maybe something that's by the door, and then they would be able to receive mail at those locations. And it's just a matter of identifying that to the carrier, to the postal service to verify and make sure how many units there are, how they're going to label those units, and then we can incorporate that as well.
That's really the difference
So
between, a motel and permanent residence, isn't it? Would be the
Yeah,
mail?
exactly.
Okay. I'm good.
Okay, so why the conditional, I guess it's more of a theoretical thing. Why the need for the conditional use permit, and why not turn it into like a long-term motel? You know what I mean? You have like the Residence Inn where there's a kitchen in the unit and people stay for a length of time. And people also receive mail at the front desk. Is there a need for the conditional use permit?
Well, I would
Well,
think.
the purpose of this is from what the applicant has explained to us is that they're planning on using this as as residences for their employees. So it wasn't the intent to have a short-term stay. That was not conveyed, because we kind of explained to them what an SRO is compared to like a hotel or an extended stay type motel. And so when it was explained, they agreed more with the SRO classification rather than like a hotel short, like 2-night stay or 3-night stay. And typically a hotel is a commercial establishment. They're not looking to charge their employees. So a hotel is basically a commercial business. And so it should be where they would be exchanging money for services for that hotel, where in this case, it basically he's looking for residential space for his employees.
If their staffing is similar to the way CRMC was run prior to the new ownership, if it's doctors, nurses, they're going to be here from they'll probably sign anywhere from a 3 to a 9-month contract to be here. I would say that since they're not charging, they're trying to market because it's so hard to get staffing. So I would think that it would be their primary residence while
At least for the
during
period of
3
time
months.
they're there. Yeah.
Yes.
At least for the period of
Or-
time they're there.
yes.
And I think in that case, we can look at it from that perspective, in terms of at the time they're there, it's a primary resident. They're not really transient, so they're not going to fall under a classification of a hotel or motel. So they're more or else going to be there during the course of time. They're not going to be there for, a weekend and then gone. Like you said, I think it's going to be very similar to the contracts that they're
Because I
signing.
know before with the old hospital, a majority, I think even maybe you could even say a super majority of the nursing staff were contract, would be here for 6 months and then would leave.
Yeah, and I'm familiar with that, and I know people who do contract work and they're wherever they're at for months at a time and do long-term hotel stays. I guess I'm thinking to the future, to where if this is no longer owned by them, what impact that would have later on.
They would still be able to run it as an SRO. Now, if they wanted to go back to a hotel motel, it would most likely, I would have to look to see if it would require a separate permit for a hotel motel. I was going to look while you guys were talking, but I think it may or may not require a use permit to look at it from that perspective as well. Yeah, so it would require a use permit to
Yeah, I
revert it
would
back
think
to
so,
a
because we had to
hotel.
do a use permit for the Best Western.
Yeah. And that's just the way it is in the code. I mean, typically, and this is a really small location. It's only 11 units. I think that when you look at like larger hotels, there's a lot more implications in terms of traffic and impacts on parking and everything. When you've got 80 units or hotel units compared to 11, there's not a big change from what's happened in the past to what's happening now. But it was just from my perspective and looking at and reviewing the how they're going to operate it, it fit more of the model of the SRO model rather than the hotel. And in reality, the hotel has been closed for years anyway, so it would have required a use permit anyways, because it was, once it's been, closed for a year, it basically it's no longer operating under a legal non-conforming.
Yeah, I've seen the property, I'm aware.
Yeah. So I think a lot of it is the way we kind of interpret it is that, it talks about it being the primary residence for those folks, whether that be the primary, it's interpreted as whether that's the primary residence for a week, a month, 6 months, for the city to have some flexibility with that, because at the time it could be the primary residence for a longer period of time rather than, multiple years.
So either way, this property was going to come before us for a conditional use permit. With the applicant saying this is what they're going to use it for, they're not going to be charging. A residence inn, yes, it's long-term, but it's still, I believe it's still classified as a hotel because they're charging. So I think that the right distinction was made on this being a SRO. That's just my personal opinion. So, any other comments?
While they're doing this, are they gonna change the color of the building on the outside?
Oh, they've already painted, two sections of it. They're
Brown?
working, yeah, it's brown.
It'll be chocolate brown, huh?
Yeah, it's,
Not a neutral color or
no,
anything
chocolate
else?
brown.
That's all I wanted to say.
I think it almost looks like it's the same colors that they used out at the hospital. So, just. Okay, the public hearing is now closed. If there's no need for any further discussion, the chair will entertain a motion.
I motion to approve.
Commissioner Helmer made the motion. Does the motion have a second?
I'll second. Yep.
Vice Chair Jacobs made the second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Helmer,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Jacobs,
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Garza,
Aye.
Chairman Saylor.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries 5-0. Moving along with my microphone on. We don't have any items under discussion and/or potential action items. Sean, do you have any department reports or staff announcements?
I just wanted to follow up with, sorry, hold on a second. I just wanted to follow up with your previous request about the housing bills that the governor had brought up. I've actually been in contact with HCD regarding our ADU ordinance, because they had kind of emailed me, asked for some information. And I think some of this is being triggered. They're still digesting a lot of the housing bills and some of the issues related to them and what impacts it's going to have on the city. So I'll have some more information from you coming up, hopefully soon, because I'm looking to get some more information back from HCD on the ADU ordinance. It's really going to affect kind of how we move forward, but it kind of dovetails into our CDBG grant that we have, where we're going to be looking at the cottage home program. And that is going to basically kind of, we're going to use that opportunity and the funding to kind of overhaul our ADU ordinance, but include criteria, regulations, and design standards for the ADU and for the cottage homes as well. So I think we're going to couple it all together. So I'm going to get some more information from HCD in terms of what those new regulations are going to look like. And I think they even have some model ordinances that we'll be able to use to create our overall program, including the regulation changes as well.
Perfect. Yes, there were a lot of housing bills that went through right at the end of that legislative session, so we appreciate that. Any commissioner announcements? And I have no announcements either, so with that, Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, guys.